Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and welcome to the Country School as we present a really great evening about internet safety, screens, all sorts of digital life, many questions about this field. There's going to be a lot to unpack tonight, so sit tight, grab your seats, but enjoy the ride with us. It's a great presentation. This is our second time with Titania, and we really enjoy having her every time. My name is Joel Maki. I'm the Director of Security and Safety here at the Country School. If you have any other questions regarding anything in this realm, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. We would like to thank Madison Youth Unplugged. Give them a big round of applause for putting this together. I especially enjoy this. This is my first event drinking a beer at my workplace. So this is fun, and I've never had a key lime kicker. So, 2 new things in one night. This is great. Tell my wife. Thank you. I'd like to start off by introducing Jen Butler. She's our counselor here at the Country School. She's going to give you a little update about the social emotional health of the students here and maybe national, a little bit of everything. Also here for any questions you might have. So, Jen.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I echo exactly what Joe said. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you to Madison Youth Unplugged for hosting, and for Titania for being here today. It is amazing to be able to partner with organizations like both BARC and Madison Youth Unplugged. This is my 20th year as a counselor in schools. I've worked in both public and private schools, and when I tell you how much the mental health of children is so important, and how much it's changed really in the past decade as cell phones have really entered our world of youth. So to be able to sit and have these types of conversations and to speak with parents and see what you're seeing, what your fears are, what your worries are, what your real life experiences are, is really just an amazing experience, and I'm glad that we can have these kinds of conversations. So please bring your questions. We want to hear what you are seeing, what you're hearing, what are your worries, and if I can bring any experiences, look from local. I know Titania is going to share nationwide what she's seeing here. But BARC is an amazing, I just cannot say it enough, amazing. They have made my work as a counselor in schools, from the technology standpoint. I know, Joe, we work with BARC, but as parents, if you have any questions, ask them, because organizations and tools like BARC will make your life as parents easier. So please ask your questions, and I am happy to answer any questions again locally, and as well as what we are doing in the schools to help from a mental health standpoint as well. So thank you so much, and I will turn it over to Tanya.
One more announcement, sorry, promise, make it really short. Just wanted to give a big shout out also to our admissions department, Pam Glasser, Amy Son. They provided all the beverages and drinks and food and all of that, so give them a big round of applause. If you'd like any information about the Country School, they'll be hanging out to the end of the evening, and please go up and visit them. They provided also some little bags and giveaways. If you take those home or take notes tonight, those, enjoy that as well. So thank you to our admissions department. Definitely thank you to all the administration here at the Country School and Madison, and all the support we have just in the shoreline. This is one big community. We're doing it all together. It's not just little pockets. And the more of us that come together and work on this, we'll get through it. So without further ado, one of my dear friends, I hope I can say friend now, because it's been a year of relationship, Titania Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Can everybody hear me okay without mic? Awesome. If I need to pump it up, just be like, or grab the mic. I'm sorry I wasn't here right at 6:30. I'm staying in Rye, New York, and I left at 4:30 thinking, surely I will have enough time. I was wrong. But I'm glad I made it in time for the talk, because I'm talking. I have a few things to give away real quick before I get into it, and I'm trying to think of some good qualifiers. I guess the first one will be for a chance to win some conversation cards. They're drive-along cards. They're meant for you to have conversations with your kids in the car versus you being mad at traffic and them being on screens. And if you don't win these tonight, they're available on Amazon. They're super cheap, but they're also fun to get for free. So, yeah, right? So I guess first question is, how many of you know why BARC Technologies is called BARC? You're not allowed to answer. Go ahead.
It alerts you.
Yes, thank you. Good job. Do you have kids 8 to 11? Great, because we have ages 12 to 14 as well if you need the older pack.
I have 3 kiddos. So
Great.
cover all the ages.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, bark, much like if you have a dog, whether it's mailman, squirrel, or burglar, when they come to your house, they'll start barking. That's what we hope to do for you with your kids' tech, when it's predators, bullying, mental health issues, pornography, etc. So, that's why it's called bark. Okay, a few more qualifiers. How many of you are already a part of the Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group? Just keep your hands raised if you're in it. Oh, yeah, that's great. Okay, so if you have kids older, keep your hands raised because I'm going to pass these out. Great, yeah. Well, I think we have enough. Keep your hands raised. 12 to 14, awesome. Yeah, if you have 12 to 14. 12 to 14? Okay. These are 8 to 11. Hands raised, awesome. Okay. Just one? Okay. Awesome. Great. Fabulous. Push your hands over there. I'll bring 8 to 11 and 12 to 14 just in case. Tell me if you need 12 to 14 instead of 8 to 11. Uh-huh. Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else in here? Okay. All right. All right. You know what? I'm going to give you 8 to 11 and 12 to 14
Oh,
because
so much.
I'm sure you'll
My
know
kids will
somebody. Yeah, great. And you know what? We'll give these to people who need them. Great. Fabulous. Awesome. Okay. And then does anybody here already use the Bark app? Does their child have the Bark phone, or does their child have the Bark watch, or do you have the Bark home? There's no shame, but I have free stickers for you to let people know that you have a digital guard dog on duty when people come to your house. So, you know, you could be like, yeah, your kids are actually going to be safe at my house when they're hanging out on tech. So you don't have to raise your hand. There's no stress, but like if you want them, they're up here. They're free. All right, so this concludes the giveaway portion of the night. Welcome. So, who am I? Why am I here? Why did I fly from Atlanta to White Plains and drive here to talk to you? As you heard, I'm the Chief Parent Officer, which is a fluffy way of saying the Chief Marketing Officer of Bark Technologies. We help to protect over 7.4 million children across the nation, which is insane to me. And I've had the opportunity to be on a lot of cool public stages, live TV, talking to people like Steve Harvey, and on all sorts of media outlets, and Drew Barrymore, and I've also testified before legislative panels around the rate at which children are encountering harms online, like cyberbullying, but nothing is as terrifying as raising this child in the middle right there with the emoji over his face in this connected world. Like, I'll take live TV, national TV all day long over what has been thrown at me. And I'm in this space. Like, I work in tech. I use social media. I get social media. I work for a company that does this, yet I'm still struggling with when's really the right age to let him have X, Y, and Z. All of his friends have this, but I know it's not right for him, and I can't fathom giving it to him. And man, he spends a lot of time on Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite, and he really wants a PS5 for Christmas, but do I want him to have that? And should he have tech in his bedrooms? Like, I've struggled with all of this. He's 16 now, and TLDR, I've made all the mistakes. In fact, thank you, Madison Youth Unplugged, because I saw some copies of my new book out there, and in my book, I go through basically all the mistakes I made, hopefully so that you don't replicate those same mistakes. So anything I say to you tonight is not from a place of judgment, but it's from a place of, please don't do what I did, it was the wrong decision, and I hope all of you can make better choices than I did. There's also a reason why there's an emoji over his face, and that's because one of the mistakes I made was sharing too much about him online. You know, when he was born, I was checking in on my BlackBerry at the hospital, right? Like, just had a baby, you know? It's like, why? Why do I need to do this? Do 600 people really need to know that I just gave birth to first name, middle name, last name, and how much he weighs and how many inches he, like, no. We don't need to be doing that. as I started to gain more influence in the world, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of dip my toes in the mommy blogger world and kind of share lifestyle photos of my child online. Just terrible idea. Very bad idea. Don't do that. I didn't realize how many predators were out there, and there's over 500,000 at any given time online looking to connect with your child. Not only that, but as my son got older and we found out, his friends could get online, and his friends could take screenshots of pictures of him and use that to bully him. And so, when in doubt, which is basically just don't put your kids online. Don't put pictures of your kids online. Unless you have private accounts, you know every single person who's following you. Your Facebook is only friends, like not friends of friends. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to curate our children's digital footprint before they're old enough to consent, and it can be used against them. So before I continue speaking, I want to show you a quick trailer. It's about 2 minutes of this documentary called Childhood 2.0. How many of you have already seen this movie? Awesome. Great. Just as an aside, how many of you have seen the wildly popular Adolescence on Netflix? Yeah, right? It's rocked everybody to their core. It's blowing up. It's a 4-part series, and this is better. So here we go. Click on it. We're gonna watch it. If I can get to it, and
a long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was foot to work, carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas, I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite. I can just scroll for hours on end. 11 hours a day.
8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden, most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem.
So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about
But
it.
it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around to school all the time. At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started. There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
How do your parents know that this happens?
no.
My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
So, if you, like documentaries, are struggling with how to convey the gravity of what's happening with kids online today, this documentary, it's 90 minutes long, it's free on YouTube, it will accomplish that. A lot of parents will ask, well, is it good for me to watch with my child? I'd say it depends. Does your child already have access to unprotected tech? Are they in 3rd grade but they have an iPhone with no parental controls? You should at least be having some candid conversations with them. But I would say, without knowing enough about your family dynamic, it's probably better suited for 6th grade and up. But it talks about all the things. But if they have access to the internet, they have access to all the things. So, moving on, why we're here, because you're kind, conscientious, thoughtful parents, and you want to do the right thing. Also, you're probably overwhelmed trying to figure out how to be the best parent you can be in a world that is so connected. And I want you to give yourself some grace. We are the first generation of parents that are having to parent in a world like this. Our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents certainly didn't have to do this. I can't call my mom and dad and ask for advice about the best age for Snapchat and, how much screen time is really okay. Like, they don't know. Their biggest obstacle was, MTV and rap music. It's like, and I'm okay, relatively. So we're figuring this out in real time together. And for those of you who don't know what Bark does, this is just a visual example. Essentially, this was me on the sofa, less than an arm's length away from my son, scrolling Instagram. That's my social media platform of choice when I want to kind of just peace out. And I was looking at everybody's filtered perfect lives. Meanwhile, he was less than an arm's length away from me, expressing some hard things on social media. And I didn't know because I wasn't looking at it. But thankfully, Bark did. Bark was connected to his Twitter account and was able to send me an alert and let me know that there's something I needed to know and look at, and then here's what I could do and here's how I could talk about it with my son. And we are surfacing things like this every single day to families who, like me, thought, not my kid, or I'll know if my kid is struggling. And I'm here to tell you, you might not. So what do you need to know? I mentioned that we help to protect over 7.4 million children across the nation, and because of that, we have a really large data set that lets us know how many children are encountering all of these issues. And so I like to start with the data to really position, here's what we're looking at, and whether it's violence, seeing violent content online, horrific live streaming events, war across the ocean, like it's happening and they can see it. And this stat doesn't include video game content. So if your kids are allowed to play Call of Duty, yes, it's animated, but it's arguably not the best for their hearts and souls. Mental health, it hopefully is not a secret that our children are struggling. In fact, if you have any parents that are part of this community that are pediatricians, they can probably speak to the fact that about 30% of a pediatrician's week now is spent not triaging, but kind of assessing a child's mental health, in addition to what they went to school for, their physical health. And that didn't used to be the case. Bullying is rampant, and it is so much different than the bullying we experienced. And unless our older siblings were just jerks, we could go home and escape the bullies, right? But when our kids have tech, that bullying follows them. And it's surfacing itself in ways that we might not realize. For example, if your kids have Snapchat and they go on to Snap Maps, which shows your child's real-time live location to all of their connections, which means they see where their friends are in real time. And if all of their friends are at somebody's house and they didn't get invited, that does not feel good. And then when everybody at that house realizes, oh, Sarah can see us, let's go on ghost mode. That's like even worse. So that's just one little nuance. I mentioned in the beginning, kids will take screenshots of the pictures that their parents, put online of them, make memes. Now kids are uploading actual faces to AI sites to generate all kinds of inappropriate things of kids. Like it's not good. The less you have about your kid online, the better. Oh, and one more thing about bullying, which I'm sure this team can speak to, is even if your kid doesn't have a smartphone yet, it's happening in the group chats. 2nd grade, 3rd grade, they all want to get on and chat with each other, group chats, and the things that are being said in there, y'all, that's not what we think our kids are talking about. And it's not representative of their hearts and their potential. But like the documentary just showed you, what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do. And even if they are a bystander, they're still witnessing it and becoming desensitized to it, and perhaps don't feel emboldened to step up and say, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't kind, right? They're in second grade. Drugs and alcohol, really important for all of us to know that drugs can be delivered to our homes as quickly and easily as a pizza now, because the drug dealers have moved away from like the corner of the sketchy part of town to Snapchat. Drug dealers will pop up like a visual menu of what they have to offer and connect with kids, and kids will, pick what they want, it'll get delivered. And that's a problem enough, but what's even worse is that these drugs now have fentanyl in them. And one pill in college most likely wasn't going to kill me. One pill now can kill, and it does kill. And you'll see a slide towards the end of the top social media executives testifying before Congress to account for the children that have died as a result of their social media platforms. So, there is a wonderful product that you can get at any CVS, Walgreens, Amazon. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it helps to reverse the effects of Narcan. Thank you. Everybody should have Narcan in their home. I don't care if your kid's straight A, like perfect person. Everybody should have Narcan in their home. It's like $14. It's worth it. Another heavy thing, which by the way, tonight is not all going to be like heavy doom and gloom. I promise we're going to get to some hope, but I needed to kind of take you there in order to help you realize what is happening. If you don't know, suicide is the second leading cause of death in children in the United States. The second leading cause of death. And every single day at BARC, we are sending between 85 and 100 severe self-harm and suicidal ideation alerts to parents about their kids. And it is something I hope nobody in this room ever has to experience. But I'm here to tell you that when it does get surfaced to you, you don't know what to do. It's a really overwhelming and terrifying place to be as a parent, much less a kid who's struggling with it. Sexual content, another thing that nobody wishes for their child to encounter in any way, shape, or form until they're adults and ready. But it is out there, and it's just a few clicks away. The major pornography websites, all they do is ask how old you are before you enter their site. And a child, if they know how to lie about their year of birth, can see all the things. And I'm not talking about the things that were in like a Playboy magazine that we maybe saw back in the 80s and 90s. There are things that I wish I did not know existed that people did. And I couldn't imagine being exposed to that as a child. And not only that, but thinking that that's what I needed to do or how I needed to act in my first relationship. Back in the day, right, the good old days, we would maybe get excited about the first time we were going to hold somebody's hand, or our first kiss, or getting asked on a date. Now children are being pressured to send nudes, or they're receiving unsolicited nudes. And so it is a very new landscape. Also, for those of us who might have older children or one day will, and I'll give you a resource shortly, but there's a reason why we have to talk to our kids about pornography outside of the obvious reasons. But one of them is that when they are old enough to have a healthy sexual consensual relationship, they are unable to do that with another human because they're so used to achieving climax because of what they've seen on a screen. And so we're seeing like college-aged boys in particular having to detox from pornography for about a year before they can have a consensual relationship with another human. And so I don't think that was the intention for human sexuality in the onset of humanity. As you saw in the clip, at BARC we went undercover as an 11-year-old on Instagram, and within minutes had grown men looking to talk to us. I mean, that was me holding up the timer, counting down, waiting for the DMs to come, and I was blown away. I mentioned there's over 500,000 predators online at any given time, and they are in the places where your kids are spending time, including Roblox. We've got to talk to our kids about the fact that there are tricky people online who might seem really nice and really friendly, but that's actually a red flag. We also need our children to know that it's not their fault, they are not in trouble, they didn't do anything wrong, even if they chatted with this person that they thought was nice. They are a child. But it is important for them to tell you. They're not in trouble, but you need to know so that you can together block and report this person who is trying to trick them so they don't hurt other children who don't know as much as they do. Anxiety. I get anxiety talking about this to people because it's hard and it's heavy. Our children are struggling with anxiety. There's a stack of books out there called The Anxious Generation for a reason. And I am so grateful to Jonathan Haidt and his team for launching that book literally a year ago this month because it has actually worked to change the smartphone-based childhood. And that's what we needed to happen. It wasn't happening, and I'm so grateful for his work. The last stat that I'll show you before I move on is around disordered eating. I couldn't imagine being a 5th grader, an 8th grader, a 12th grader, and looking online and seeing people's perfect, filtered, cellulite-free, acne-free bodies, and then now my body's growing and changing, and I'm trying to figure out, how to look good, how to fit in, how to restrict calories, whether it's keto or, high fat or, certain calorie counts. Like, our kids are inundated with this. And one of the problems with social media is that algorithms don't prioritize your child's mental health and physical health. Algorithms exist to keep your kids locked in. So if your kid is just maybe curious about how to get healthier and they look up on TikTok, like, how many calories should I eat a day? Well, TikTok isn't going to prioritize your child's well-being. They're going to show them more and more of that diet-type content. And it is a major problem. So what do we do? What do we do about it besides show up tonight? We have got to have multiple candid conversations with our children, more frequently than we might think, and younger than we might think. We have to model. There's a reason why I'm not looking at my phone right now while I'm talking to you. It's because I have respect for all of you, and I want you to know that you are more important to me than this thing. And so we need to model at home, by turning off the notifications. Maybe let's not charge our phones by our bed at night. Maybe when we get home or on the weekends, we can all put our tech in a basket, and hang out in real life. We've got to model. And then there's tools. There's tools that I'll go over that can help you be a better parent in today's world. So I will be sprinkling in some conversation starters, but this lovely team here can also help you with, okay, now I'm freaked out. How do I talk to my kid about blank or this or that? You'd be surprised how easy it actually might be to talk about these things with your kids, as long as you're doing it in an age-appropriate way. And in fact, there's a scene in Childhood 2.0 where Chris McKenna of ProtectYoungEyes.com, amazing dad and human, is saying, you basically need to annoy your kids with these concepts because at the end of the day, they're going to know that you love them and you're there for them. It's not like when we were growing up. I think my mom talked about it a little bit, but my parents were divorced, and my dad never talked to me about sex or boys. All he said was basically, you're not dating until you're 30. And I was like, okay, I don't think that's going to work, and that doesn't help me at all. So let's do better than our parents. Also, get your head out of the sand. It really can happen to any one of our children, 100%. Please don't think my kid would never, because good kids make bad choices. The frontal lobes of their brain is not fully formed until they're in their mid-20s. And that's the part of their brain that's responsible for emotional regulation and decision-making and all of, the adult things. And so that's why they have parents. That's why they don't live alone yet. But on the flip side, I'm the first to admit I'm guilty of hearing about something happening and being like, what? When really it should have been like, oh, thank you for telling me, right? And then freaking out inside. Or getting really upset and wanting to just karate chop that phone out of that hand and flick it in the bathtub and kill it, But I had to be I am so glad you brought that to my attention. I can't believe they're saying those things. What do you think we should do? It's not easy, but it's really important to freak out quietly so that your kids do continue to come to you and let you know when these things are happening. Because they don't want to lose access. They don't want to get punished. They don't want to lose their form of entertainment and connection. I mean, think about the things that you did, maybe as a kid, that you didn't tell your parents about, right? Because you're like, wow, if they know that, I definitely can't hang out with them anymore. Well, same thing, but online. So a few things that we should talk about with our kids. FOMO, fear of missing out. I couldn't imagine being a kid and opening up whatever app and seeing everybody posting about being at like Taylor Swift. And like they're all dressed up in their glitter and their stuff, and that's so great, but like where's my invite, you know? And like maybe I couldn't spend $5,000 on a ticket and I'm feeling not so great about myself. Our kids are experiencing that. And I mentioned, snap maps. When your kids can open up and see where everybody is, like that's stalker level, like we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. I'll never forget when my son asked to get Life 360 because he wanted to track his friends. And I was like, no. No. How about no? I mentioned ghost mode. If and when you do decide your child is allowed to have Snapchat, I would highly encourage you to remind them that being on ghost mode so that people they're connected to can't see their location is a really, really good thing to do. They'll be surprised that you even know what ghost mode is. Some more things to talk about with your kids is just that concept of filtered life versus real life. When I was growing up, a fifth grader looked like the young woman on the left. Today, now with filters, everybody thinks they're supposed to look like the girl on the right, like fifth grade, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel pretty and experiment with hair and makeup and fashion, like that's fun. But when you think you need to spend $500 a month at Sephora to be good enough, that's stupid. When our young humans are going into dermatologists asking for fillers and Botox and laser resurfacing, like, no. They need soap and moisturizer and sleep, right? Like, that's it. But these filters are making us all feel really bad about ourselves, myself included. I remember the first time I posted something to Instagram, or I was about to post to Instagram, and I just swiped, and I tried the Paris filter, and I was like, oh, this is nice, So like, a lot of the stuff you see of me online, it has a filter, but at least I'll tell you. I will own that, right? Sometimes filters are great, because then I don't have to spend time putting on makeup for TV, but I'm going to at least own it. And so yeah, our children are really falling into that comparison trap of feeling like they're not good enough. And all that a kid wants is to be accepted, to be loved, to be good enough. And the social currency now is likes and follows and engagement. And that should not be the case. In the documentary, I keep talking about it because it's that good, you hear from Tristan Harris, who is part of the Center for Humane Tech, I believe. And he says, if you tell people that something's bad for them, they're not going to pay attention. But if you can tell them how they're being manipulated, they will pay attention. And so in addition to letting your kids know there's a reason why you're saying no to these things, it's not just because you're a strict parent. It's because these companies know that their products are harming children, and they continue to harm children because they are not legally liable. Our laws have not been updated since 1998 to keep these kids safer online. I was in high school in 1998. TikTok didn't exist then. And so let them know, like, I get it, you want to be on Instagram, but Facebook knows it's harming teen girls in particular. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, Twitter, all of them, they know how many children are being harmed, are being targeted by predators, have decided to die by suicide because of stupid challenges. And instead of making meaningful changes to fix it, they roll out these BS, fluffy parental controls that don't actually work to try to appease the general public from a PR standpoint. Another thing to note is that happiness is an unfollow away. I think that's good advice for all of us as adults, right? Like there's some accounts that I've had to unfollow because they're great, but they make me feel bad about myself. Like I'm not ever going to be an influencer traveling to Greece, making, 6 figures because of my pictures. I'm just not, and so good for them, but like I would rather follow cat memes and Bible verses and like leadership stuff and like my good friends. So let your children know that they can actually curate a healthier algorithm. In fact, one thing that Instagram did well was give people this year the ability to reset their algorithm. So if you have an older child and you're kind of looking through the feed together and you're like, this stuff's toxic for you, this isn't good, let's reset and let's start following things that are only uplifting. This is the slide I was talking about. So these are the top 5 CEOs of the social media companies. We all know Mark Zuckerberg, but that's Linda Yaccarino, the CEO of X, which used to be Twitter. It's not Elon, it's Linda. That in the middle is the CEO of TikTok, and then Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snapchat, and then the CEO of Discord on the far left. Behind them is a group of parents holding up pictures of their children that have died because of their platforms. It was a gut-wrenching session to watch. Also to note is that the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, that's the nation's top doctor, last May came out and said that social media should have a warning label on it, like cigarettes. And what's crazy to me is nothing has happened. Not one thing has happened since then. Like, what else do we need besides our nation's top doctor saying this is bad for everybody? And still, nothing has happened. That's insane to me. I talked about algorithms a lot, but again, to help your children understand how they're being manipulated, educate them on the fact that the CEOs of these companies don't let their own kids on these platforms or have the tech at a certain age, right? Bill Gates was just on the Smartless podcast talking about how he didn't let his child have a smartphone until 14. They know things, right? Additionally, while these platforms are free to download and use, there is absolutely a cost. And that cost is our mental health and our physical health. And these platforms are generating billions of dollars in ad revenue off of the time that our children are giving them. Much less us. We know they're making money off us, but off of our children, that's just an extra layer of like anger in my camp. So our kids need to know that. Like, Instagram is not going to help you pay for college. It's not. So some resources. I'm sure everybody in this room knows about 911. Awesome. But probably only about 12% of you, according to 988, knows what 988 is. And that's a lifeline that you can call if you're struggling, if you have a friend or family member who is struggling, and it is a confidential, judgment-free hotline to call if you're struggling with your mental health. You don't have to be imminently suicidal to call that hotline. You can just be struggling, and it's important for us to know that that hotline exists as well. Also, I mentioned that sexting is a new first base. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's why it says Georgia up there. But sexting in most states falls under the child pornography laws, which, side note, it should not be called child pornography. It should be called child sexual abuse material, because that's what it is. So it is against the law, and outside of the relational and emotional and reputational ramifications of the sending and receiving of nudes of children, they need to know that there are legal ramifications, like true legal ramifications. And I actually was talking about this with my son when he was 12. I was like, hey, are kids sending nudes in your class in 6th grade? And he was like, yeah, they've gone around. And I'm just like, wow. Did you know that it's against the law? And he was like, what? I went to Google, I took a screenshot. That's the screenshot. I was like, dude, you can actually get in big trouble for this. Please don't ever participate. Another thing to note is sextortion is on the rise. Unfortunately, you have probably all heard of a story by now where a child, 17-year-old, I still call them children, 17-year-old thought that he was talking with somebody his age on Instagram, They were getting flirty. He sent a nude. All of a sudden, this person is not a peer, but somebody from a crime ring based out of Nigeria that threatened him and said, if you don't send me more images, I'm going to distribute this image to all of your friends, because they could see all of his friends on Instagram, right? And he decided to die by suicide instead of tell his parents because he was so ashamed. So we need to go home and tell our kids, hey, if anybody ever approaches you and you get tricked and you send them something that you wish you didn't, you are not in trouble. It is not your fault. But we need to go after these people because they're very bad people and they're hurting other kids. So please don't ever be afraid to tell me. We'll get you the help you need. Thankfully, there's Take It Down. It's a website put up by NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Unfortunately, there were so many kids struggling with having their nudes online, and the social media platforms were not working with them to get them taken down, that NCMEC had to create a whole initiative. Like, that's insane to me. But thankfully it does exist, and it can now help your children get the stuff taken online. There's a lot of things that are upsetting, but one of the things that is incredibly upsetting is when I hear parents say, yeah, I reached out to fill in the blank platform, and they said, thank you for surfacing, but this doesn't violate our community standards. I'm like, you need to fix your community standards. Also, and I hope you don't ever need to know this, but if your child is the victim of any sort of internet crime, be it nudes, bullying, anything, every state, including the great state of Connecticut, has an Internet Crimes Against Children unit, and they are there to help you navigate this. They are wonderful humans that see the worst of the worst, and they not only are helpful with the legal aspect of things, but they have victim advocates that help assess whether your child perhaps needs therapy and how to go through that process as well. On a lighter note, there's slang. And going back to the show Adolescence on Netflix, one of the turning points in the series was when the detective who was investigating a murder got a tip from his son who said, Dad, you looked at the suspect's Instagram and you saw the comments and you didn't pick up on what these emojis meant. And he told the detective, what the emojis actually meant. And that helped to break open the case. And that's the world we're living in right now. Our kids have a whole different language that we don't know. And so, for example, the second emoji from the bottom is a plate of pasta, plate of spaghetti. Noodles. Noodles sounds like nudes. So your kids might be excited about Italian for dinner. Or they might, maybe, I hope, or they might be talking about sending or receiving nudes. So thankfully, the Bark algorithm can pick up on that and alert you. Or now that you're in the know, if you're looking through their stuff, you will now know and you'll know to have a conversation. Also important to think through before you're faced with this is just that passwords are doorways. If there's one thing I really try to hit home in my book, Parental Control, is that be the parent, not their friend. Be confident in your parenting authority. There's a reason why your children don't live alone, all by themselves, in an apartment with only one key to that apartment. Same rule applies to their tech. You need to know the passwords for the actual tech and the passwords for all of the accounts, period. And if you ever go to them and those passwords have changed, they lose access to the tech. That was the rule that we had in our house, and thankfully, my son's phone still has the same password that he's had since he's had a phone. So I'm thankful that is at least one rule that he's followed. But I also don't go and look through it every day. I don't have time for that. I have Bark, and it's definitely a balance. Screen time. So some of you may have showed up tonight just to ask the question of how much screen time is enough or too much for my kid, and now that I've completely scared you, you're like, well, that's the least of my worries. But we can talk about it. It's important to help your child understand the science behind screens and how there's a chemical called dopamine in our brains. It's the feel-good chemical. And when we eat ice cream, or when adults drink alcohol or smoke marijuana. Dopamine spikes, it's a feel-good chemical. Well, the really brilliant scientists and engineers at tech and gaming companies have figured out a way to also impact our dopamine. So that's why you get really mad when it's time to shut off Minecraft, or you don't want to stop binge watching whatever. It's because your dopamine is spiked. And if our kids have too much exposure to screens and games and social media, they start to not get enough dopamine from the real world. Everything's boring to them. Legos, books, forts, in real life activities, they don't give them that same hit. And that's where we are, and it's terrifying, and we have got to work hard to dial it back. And there's a difference between just passive consumption and proactive creation or competition or curation. My goal tonight is not to say tech is bad, avoid at all costs, right? Tech is a tool. Tech is how we connected so that I could come here and talk to you today, like over email. Awesome, tech is great, but it has a purpose, and as a society, over the past 15 years, tech has taken over control of us when we have got to be in control of the tech. And we've got to help our kids understand that tech is a tool, and they need to remain in control of it. But right now, the tech is controlling them. It's about quality over quantity. If your family has Apple devices, you can use screen time. It's free. It's built right into the Apple ecosystem. If you're an Android family, there's Google Family Link. Again, free. A lot of parental controls. There's Bark. You can use Bark. And there's also a lot of other things. Whatever company brings internet into your home, they probably have parental controls and filters that you can set. You just have to take the time to Google it or talk to their chatbot or call their customer service hotline. Gaming consoles, same thing. Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, most of the tech that our kids can access, thankfully has some built-in parental controls, but you just have to take the time to Google whatever they use, plus 2 words, parental controls, and then go through the steps. One of the biggest problems that I see today is that every kid expects a Ferrari when it comes to their first smartphone, which is the iPhone. And that is ridiculous. They don't need a $1,000 piece of hardware from a company that prioritizes privacy over child safety. And even a hand-me-down iPhone, because maybe you're the adult and you want to upgrade, is still not a good idea. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And I'm not saying that you have to go with the Bark smartphone. Yes, we have a smartphone for kids that's safer, but there's other options too. There's a flip phone, there's Gab, there's TrueMe, there's Pinwheel. Thankfully, there's a lot of players in this space now that actually do prioritize child safety. And so please pick anything but an iPhone for your child's first smartphone. A few of the reasons why are that Apple knows that their parental controls are broken, and they haven't fixed them yet. I know I told you to use Apple Screen Time if you're an Apple family, and I hope it works for you, but there's a strong chance it won't. And it's not because of you, it's because of the bugs. Kids know how to circumvent Apple Screen Time. They can just hit request 1 more minute, or you can do everything right and set filters to avoid mature content or other nefarious things, but they can get around them. And feel free to Google it. Don't take my word for it. The screenshot that the Wall Street Journal reported, TechCrunch, Mashable reported on it, and even if you look up on Apple's own community forums, you'll see thousands of parents who are ticked off that Apple is not doing a better job. And it would be one thing if Apple owned it, but they don't. And they don't allow any third-party platform to work with their system. So they think that their parental controls are good enough, and they're not. On top of that, and again, I'm telling you this as an Apple user. I'm presenting from a MacBook. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone. I love Apple, but I'm an adult. Apple a few years ago was going to own the fact that the bad people that we talk about tonight, when they take photos and videos of kids, they have to store it somewhere. It's stored on iCloud. Apple has the ability to detect that, remove it, alert law enforcement, help stop kids from being abused, and they were going to start to do that And then they had so much pushback from privacy advocates that they walked it back. And call me crazy, but I don't think pedophiles and predators and child abusers deserve privacy. I think children deserve to be protected. And so when your kids are saying, I really want an iPhone, you can be like, I know you do, but Apple doesn't care about you. Additionally, you all, in your seat, have a tech contract. This isn't meant to be like a heavy-handed thing. This is more like a major life events involve contracts, right? Getting a car, getting married, getting a divorce, renting an apartment, whatever. Getting access to tech is a big deal. So let's go over some guidelines of what we will and won't do with tech. Feel free to make it your own, but put it on the fridge, because I can guarantee you'll talk about some things and your kids will say like, oh, I forgot. And you can be like, no, this right here, it's on the fridge. This is what we do. Also, it takes a village. I asked some of you in the beginning, how many of you are part of this group? It's a group I started in 2017, and it now has over 600,000 parents in it, which is crazy town to me. But I'm so thrilled that it exists, and one of my favorite features about it is that you can actually ask questions anonymously, so everybody doesn't have to know your business. So if you're on Facebook, you can look up Parenting in a Tech World, and it's a great group. Also, some resources. That's my old book, which you'll actually get a free copy of it, and a few slides if you scan the QR code. And then my new book, Parental Control, is out there, or Amazon. ProtectYoungEyes.com, great resource. That gentleman, Chris McKenna, he's a dad of 4. And like I said, that, hey, you should probably Google what your kids can access plus 2 words, parental controls. He actually did the hard work for us and listed guides on his website. Here's how to turn on the parental controls for all the connected tech your kids can access. So that's protectyoungeyes.com. Great site, great human. How do you talk to kids about pornography? You should get this book. Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior is for kids age 3 to 7, and Good Pictures, Bad Pictures 7 to 12. It is a really, it's probably the most comfortable way to talk about a very uncomfortable topic. Super age appropriate, super just matter of fact, helps your kids to understand there's no shame, nothing wrong with age appropriate sexual curiosity, but some things online that can harm their hearts and their minds and can actually be addictive. And if you don't believe me, look in the Facebook group. There are parents posting saying, help, my 8-year-old is addicted to porn. And you're just like, how are we here? But we are here. Please watch Childhood 2.0. I showed you the clip. It's free on YouTube. In fact, Wednesday night, we screened this movie at the Mamaroneck Theater in New York. So if there's a local movie theater and we can pack the house, like, I'll come back, show the movie, make a night of it, free popcorn and drinks.
Oh.
Yeah. We have a blog, but whatever. I don't care what you use. I really don't care what you use, but please use something. The one thing we can't do is nothing. So whatever your kids can access, turn on the parental controls and the filters and the time limits. And if you don't know what to do or how to do it, there's protectyoungeyes.com. And there's me. You can literally email me, and I will give you that in a minute. This QR code, if you scan it, will help you understand the nuances of bark. Hopefully you know what it does by now, but quickly, we have an app that you can add to your child's tech that will alert you, help you set screen time limits and filters, even help you track their location. We have a device that goes in the home called the Bark Home. So if you need help with monitoring, time limits and filters on like smart TVs and gaming consoles, or if you have your kids' friends come over and they bring their tech that's not safe, you can actually try to make it safe while it's in your home. We also have a safer smartphone for kids that actually works. It can be as dumb or as open as you want it. And one of the really cool things about the Bark smartphone is that when a child goes to take a nude photo or video, it doesn't save to the device, which is really important in helping to stop the spread of CSAM. And then most recently, we launched a safer smartwatch for kids. So there's that if you want it, but just use something that is safe. This QR code is essentially, if you scan it, it's asking for your name, your email, and you'll be receiving an email from me with like 3 easy tips. I think it's like a link to the Facebook group, and a few other things, including a link to my first book, the digital copy. But I send like 1 email a week of just like, hey, here's a quick thing you need to know. But even cooler about me just sending stuff to you is that that's actually my email. So you can respond to it and be like, hey, I had a question, or hey, I'm struggling with this, or whatever. If you want to get in touch with me and you sign up for this thing, you will have my contact info. And yeah, so I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? And if not, we'll go to questions.
Yeah, let's give her a big round of applause for starting. Thank you so much. It's amazing every time. It really is. I really appreciate it. Want to open the floor to questions? Yeah, we were happy.
Actually, this is a question. I'm a psychologist, so thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to add that it's not just like these typical platforms that kids can, that stalkers or, people can access. I mean, the rule in our house was that I had to know every one of the contacts on my daughter's phone in person.
Yes.
Not like through a name, but in person. And one time we were going through them, and I saw someone, and I'm like, who's that? I'm like, well, I got it through my menstrual period app. I'm like, you're what?
No.
And it was somebody in Nigeria, and thankfully, nothing had happened, but so every week we went through the contacts. And so it's not just through Snapchat, but it's through these other apps that can be, that you think are benign. So I just wanted to share. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to push this into a 2-part question. I have a lot of feeling.
Yeah.
I'm a parent of an adolescent. I also work in advertising on McDonald's restaurants and targeted children. I work on the Happy Meal program, on the McDonald's program. Like the rules I confronted in, targeting children back during that time in the 90s, 2000s were so, appropriately specific. To the point where if I had a Happy Meal pre-test, it had to be a certain angle that didn't make it appear too cool or too big, right? Because they are defenseless consumers.
Yeah.
So one, I understand the power of branding, words, and messaging, and why these are called phones are mind-boggling to me. My son has a flip phone. That's a phone.
Yeah.
The iPhone is a supermax computer.
Right.
But we don't differentiate that. It would be a very simple way to clarify the conversation. You want a phone? Oh, great. Here it is.
Here's a phone that can call. Yeah.
I'm very deliberate in how I handle this, but not confident. It's a process. But my current concern is online hate and dangerously. We're seeing that from an adult standpoint. We're in a divisive period of tribalism, and the us versus them, is coming into all channels, and kids are receiving, and it's a target of no frontal lobe, and that keeps them at night. So adolescents, one, I was going to use it as a base of storytelling to my son.
Yes.
He's a 6th grader.
Oh, yeah.
Is that appropriate?
Yes.
I can get this.
Yes. 100%.
I told him I wanted him. The storytelling from a single person's perspective is so powerful.
100%. I would watch adolescents with him. I would watch Childhood 2.0 with him. Our children are absolutely impacted. Their worldview.
Right.
My son expressed to me so many things, but he's like, our world's just going to be, like, he's really freaked out about global warming because of the particular algorithm. At one point, he was really despondent about being a white male. He's like, I can't be a white male in this world. Everybody hates white men. And I'm like, okay, we need to talk, And like, so it's just everything is exacerbated. Every little thing is just extra, right? And think about when you were a kid, whenever something would happen with your friends, it felt like the end of the world. It was everything. But once you get out of school and you realize, oh, there's a whole world out there and none of that matters. But they're in it and it's exacerbated. So I don't have a lot of good advice for you other than keep him off social media for as long as possible. Wait until 16 if you can, and know that he's going to encounter some of these things, and if you can just continue to talk to him. And more important than talking to them is get them to talk to you. Listen. Ask them, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What do you think? What are your friends saying? And then don't turn it into a lecture. Just kind of process it and thank them. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I can't imagine what it would be like to grow up in the world that you're growing up in. I have a lot of empathy for you.
So I have a second part to it.
Yeah.
My husband works at Bloomberg, news organization, and we can all define that however we want from the perspective that they are very forwardly, I think. Like Bloomberg had a lunchtime conference announcing, with his name on it, and he did it individually, of the failed effort of the school front using laptops as the wheels are in, and all the desired effect has not been reached. And again, from a marketing standpoint, how do we vilify these algorithms intended to take away youth if the schools are endorsing it through the algorithms? The same design of engagement is being used on the laptops of our Chromebooks, and when will the schools react to the news when a business executive shuts down the business for an hour? How long will it take for them to understand?
I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, before you do, I will just say that,
I'm
there are many schools that I go to that think their internet is safe, and I can't show my presentation, and I'm like, cool. But then I just tether to my phone and show it that way. I couldn't do that tonight. So hats off to you. Your campus is actually secure from a tech standpoint, but I'll let you chime in on that.
Yeah, thank you. What I would say is get Bark. Because we did a couple things. We did not allow Mac OS devices or iOS devices. We went into the Chromebook. We made sure that they were school issued, which means you can't get around the things we have in place because they come from the factory paired to our school. So we're the complete owners. Then we put Bark on. And we married another program called Go Guardian, which you've heard of. And we just have all these layers in place. So it's not about a one-time, let's just put this in and walk away. Even at home, I have Bark at home. I check in on it. I check out my kids' devices. So it's not set it and forget it. It's a continued effort, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have the easy button, but
yeah, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't really exist. So we just have to just keep doing it. We're also very intentional here, and I think Madison's also doing well with this. They're making more and more strides into being intentional on how you're using the screens. Instead of just saying, here's a device, do what you need to do on it. We have so much locked down here that even today, a student was looking for Nikes, and she said it's blocked. And I was like, well, what do you really need to know about Nikes for while you're here? Like, is Google Drive blocked? No. Is, Wikipedia and encyclopedias, or any of those blocked? No. I said, then I think you're all set. Because those are like the main things you need to get through the school day,
And not only that, but tech is a complement to education, but it's not the end all be all. Tech shouldn't replace a teacher. It shouldn't replace writing by hand. It shouldn't replace reading actual books. Yeah. We can't gamify education completely, or our kids are not going to thrive. And I'm assuming kids aren't just connected all day long at school.
Right.
Great. Yeah, y'all are doing a lot better than the majority of the country.
Yeah. One of the big problems we have here at lunchtime is because there's no screens, it's too loud from laughter.
That's not a problem.
That's a really good, I always say that's a great problem to have.
Yes, that's
right?
Great.
So that's what we're actually working on acoustical sound panels to take down the volume. That's our biggest problem. And I think other schools can do it, and I think we're trying to lead this initiative into showing, partnerships with Bark, that you can get back out there to scraped knees and bruised elbows and all that.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And I tell that to my kids all the time. I'm not a master at this. I'm learning as I go. My kids are 10 and 8, and it's a journey, right? But we want to empower you guys to say no sometimes, take things away, and just to show of hands, not to call each other out or yourselves out. Who knows someone, could be yourself, that allows their student to have a device in the bedroom? Do you know anyone that allows that? Right. I say start there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big, so my house, so we're colonial, right? So if you're a ranch, it's a little different, but we're colonial, so our rule is no tech on the second floor up. That's our
Great.
yeah, that's just like, try that for starters.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents here have given me some really good feedback on that. They were like, that was a pretty easy rule to put in, and it kind of made a lot of difference. So I would say, free, and like, when you go upstairs, like the end. I cheat a little bit because we have Alexas. So there's a little tech in the bedrooms, but no screens, they're just a little, alarm clock and some music.
Awesome.
So, yeah, all good. What other questions do you have? Yeah.
What happens when your kid hacks into your parental controls? Because that's what my son did. So he was 10, he hacked into all the parental controls, and so I read Anxious Generation, took him off 6 months of all screens. It was the worst experience ever, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you tell a kid not to eat sweets, all they want to do is eat sweets anywhere, like they are not in the house. So it actually started this like crazy cycle. And no matter what we do, he's better at programming than we are. He's better at coding, he's better at hacking. Like, there's nothing, and my brother's a programmer. So like, and kids, and that's what I want to say, is like, kids are really smart.
Yes.
And if, for a lot of the boys, I don't know necessarily about girls, because I have a daughter too, but the boys, like, my son said in 4th grade, he said, all the boys know how to code. The girls, probably half. But we can all put, like, so many of the boys can code better than their parents. So they can hack into, like, we have all those things in place, but, like, and then, like, what do you do there? I think that's, like, a huge problem that we're facing now.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, have a good answer to that.
Sure.
And just removing everything doesn't necessarily help either. And, like, because he tells me, he's like, this is the world I live in, and so we send him to private school. And yes, they do the same thing. We go to Foot, they do the same thing. But in the younger schools too, they've also had a problem where kids are smart.
Yeah.
They hacked in, they had their own chat rooms through their Chromebooks. It's just, and they have all security and they have all the regulations. So there's like a lot of things, and I think that's something that like we struggle with, and I don't know what to do when like they hack into your parental controls. Yes, we put another liner, but like it keeps on getting broken, and then yes, you get punished. Then what?
Which ones were you using?
My brother had set it up, so we didn't use Spark. We used the one for like Google.
Okay.
We used the one for Apple, and yes, I agree. Apple was like horrible.
Yeah.
So
you could try Bark. We have made ours pretty unhackable, and we've also built in a safeguard to where if a child figures out how to unlink something, you can't disconnect Bark from the Bark phone or the Bark watch, but if you have the Bark app on an iPhone, for example, and you go really deep on a subreddit, you might be able to figure something out, but we'll send you an alert saying, hey, your kid has disconnected this, here's what you need to do. And then there's a consequence for that, right? Mm-hmm. So you could try Bark, but it also starts with a few things that don't matter whether your kid can program or not. Mm-hmm. Like, there's only 2 ways to access the internet: through an internet service provider into your home, or through LTE through cellular devices. So if they don't have any device with cellular, then you have one route, which is the Wi-Fi. And if they don't know the Wi-Fi password, they can't get online. Now, can they go to Starbucks and get on the Wi-Fi? Yes. But if they don't have the devices, then they can't. So it is a game of whack-a-mole. It's not easy, but if you can limit the avenues they have, then you actually remain in control. And just saying no, 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 never, never, never isn't going to work, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a burner phone. They're going to sneak it. So if you can work together to be like, I actually want to help your coding and career with tech thrive, but we need to do it in these ways. So longer conversation outside of tonight, but feel free to email me or work with the school. Like, we can figure this out. Yes.
So, I can't speak for private schools, but for public schools in Connecticut, there's a big movement toward preparing your students for the 21st century, the 21st century skills.
Right.
It's about diversity, inclusion, working with people of different, backgrounds, and also being able to use technology and all of that. and now schools are even starting to grapple with how to teach the tool of AI, right? Do you feel that there's a place or even a necessity for public schools to teach good digital citizenship?
Yes, schools should absolutely be teaching good digital citizenship, but we don't need tech in every classroom. Much like we have all gotten up to speed just fine, right, by getting the stuff in college and beyond. They don't need it in their early education years when their brains are still incredibly malleable and forming critical skills. We also had like a computer class, right, where we learned how to keyboard and do stuff, and then we went on about our day doing other things in real life. So have it be limited, and then have the digital citizenship and curriculum ingrained in other curriculums. For example, in biology, don't just talk about the normal things, talk about that dopamine spike, right? And in social studies, you don't just talk about, the Constitution, talk about how elections can be influenced now by algorithms. So it's a collective effort of incorporating our today world into this. ChatGPT and AI is an amazing tool, and being able to figure out how to use it, but also fact check it. We can use it for a tool, much like when we all first got calculators. There are probably some people that were like, "You can't do that. That's cheating." And it's like, well, I don't know about you, but I need a calculator. So like, it's a balance, but it just has to be a balance. Yes.
So I have a very small little science experiment because I have twins, and I have one here and I have one in Madison Public School in 6th grade, and it's locked down tight here, and I know for a fact that kiddo who's here is on task during class. I mean, he might be daydreaming, but because I can see what he's doing when he's in the classroom. And one of my big frustrations, and I love the public school system in town too, but I know that the 6th graders are 100% able to access all social media through the school system. I've seen it firsthand, and it is not that hard for them to get onto Snapchat and TikTok. We don't allow it in our house. We have Bark Home, we have Bark, we have Bark Watch, and then my kid goes to school and he can do everything. And
it's so frustrating.
And I don't think parents know what the Chromebooks are able to do. And, as Madison Youth Unplugged, we're looking for more support and more people to be vocal, because there's only 4 of us showing up at meetings for the most part, and we need more people to, in my opinion, push Madison to take YouTube off of devices, and to give parents access to what kids are seeing in school. The 3 of us were testers for the Securely app to allow parents to see stuff, and for 3 days they gave us access accidentally to see what kids were looking at during the day. And my feeling is, if you're giving my kid a computer you can't control, then at least let me see what he's doing. And it is giving my kid a bowl of candy, telling him not to eat it, and then potentially he's in trouble if he eats it. And it just infuriates me. And my kiddo here doesn't have that. And it's not, comparing the 2 schools, but I will say one of the things they do here that I love and I wish Madison did more of is, I think it was the 5th graders had to make an actual phone call to RSVP to a class party that the parents hosted. I thought that was so great, and they talked about, what do you do in a text message versus when do you pick up the phone and call, and when do you write a thank you note versus say, hey, thanks, in a text. And I just feel like, you can do all the things right at home, and then, it kind of all like.
That's why we have to fight. We have to, Jonathan Haidt worked over the past year to reverse the phone-based childhood, and now he and his team are working to make schools safer. So unfortunately, our kids aren't going to be in the safest place if they're not here at this school. But in a few years, kids will actually probably be in a better place because parents are waking up, and we're not thrilled. But we have to have the confidence to speak up and go to our school boards and understand that we can't rely on the teachers to do this. Teachers are underpaid, overworked, and they can't also be tech police.
Which is what the schools expect.
Yeah, no. If the school's going to give the kids tech, the tech needs to be safe, and they can't pretend that it is safe. period. And like, you can't argue with that. We've got to lean into common sense. Like, we've all lost it. Like, the first person that decided, hey, it's cool if you have a smartphone in my classroom, like, what were they thinking? Like, really? Like, you think the kid's gonna learn and pay attention? Like, no. I don't know when that became normal, but it did, and we've got to fix that, like, ASAP. Yes?
Just piggybacking off of that, what Seth was talking about, excuse me,
You're good.
In the public school setting, right, there's a lot of pieces to make movement there. But the piece, I'm a big advocate of this stuff. I'm a former educational-based athletic administrator of over 30 years. In the last 2 years, been working in mental fitness, cognitive performance areas, and working with students, coaches, athletes. And part of the work that we do, we actually dive into the cell phone and social media addiction. One of the things that I have found working with, whether it's middle school age kids, high school, collegiate, or even professional people, when you teach them the impact on the brain chemistry and how that then turns into the vagus nerve and what that does to you physically, especially if you're someone that wants to be an elite performer, it gets their attention.
Yes.
And so that education piece, all these pieces have to work, but the education needs to be there or it'll never work and it won't send it home. And so the example I use, I was never a smoker, but there was a point in time where students were allowed to go to a certain section of the high school and smoke, and the teachers would join them. Are you kidding me? I had friends that had the basketball coach chain smoking in a small locker room before giving a pep talk to go out. Well, guess what? We talk about smoking in health class. We've had sex ed stuff in health class. All those things over time happen, and to your point, the integration of that's the piece. You know how hard it is to get curriculum introduced and acted on. I mean, if everything works in sync, it takes you 18 months. And that's like the perfect cycle. And that, unfortunately, that's too long. And I think people got to recognize that aspect of it has to be there, have to be open-minded to accepting that and making that work. You know, Jonathan Haidt's book, again, only a year old, right? But it has made a huge movement and is making that happen. But again, if you can get that education piece in front of the kids sooner, they're going to start owning some of that, especially the ones that want to perform. And it's actually cognitive behavioral therapy. It's an addiction, right? So like if you're a fourth grader smart enough to code and figure out how to do that, right, that's an addiction. That's someone else outsmarting trying to figure out how to get my drugs and doing all these other kind of things. So I think, again, all these components, but in terms of the banning and taking away, it's got to be done in concert with the education if you really want to have the greatest impact.
Thank you. Well said.
Just a quick update, Securely is now available to all Madison parents.
But not what they're seeing in school, not what they're doing in school. It is from
only from
when
home.
the last school releases, so the the elementary schools get out last, and that is when you can start to see what your kid is doing. And when the earliest school starts.
At least you guys have.
You had a question.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
that resource
Yeah.
that kind of touches on what you just said and also probably would help you. It's called Healthy Gamer.
Yes.
And it focuses on gaming, but I think it really is about, just screens. And it helps us really understand that draw that they have and how to, just kind of approach it in a way that honors what is pulling them, but then also, in a healthy way.
Yeah, this guy's legit. If your
Dr.
kids
K.
won't listen to you, they'll listen to him.
Yeah.
So healthygamer.gg. I should add that to my presentation and take a screenshot.
You mentioned common sense, right? Common sense was in there somewhere, right?
No.
Common Sense Media is another really good.
Yeah.
Use it for checking out movies. Use it for digital curriculum.
Yeah.
Digital.
For sure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I have a question about barth. So, as kids are transitioning when they're little, there's dependency on parents. As they transition to being teens, the dependency is less. You have more of trust building.
Yeah.
As a parental relationship.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about how a parent can introduce barth within this dynamic without violating that trust or within the boundaries of trust? And what does barth provide by way of educational materials for the kids to say, to teach them that this is not a violation of boundaries or your trust, not boundaries but trust. So what do you have for kids to kind of embolden them to say this is not about violation of trust in a relationship, And what do you have as materials that help us parents to introduce the concept of a bark in our lives?
Yeah, we have a lot of resources, a lot of materials. It kind of starts with just our whole ethos of why we launched the company. And it was because before Bark, it was either look at all your kids' stuff all the time or use spyware that tracked every keystroke and gave you, the parent, everything your kid was doing all the time, which was intrusive and cumbersome. So we decided to use AI to detect dangers and just surface the danger, which when you're reasoning with your kid, which is not always easy, they can understand that, for example, when they ride a car, they wear a seatbelt. When they go to the beach, they put on sunscreen. When you're using tech, it's not that I don't trust you, I don't trust the entire world. So we're gonna have the seatbelt version of tech on your devices. Bark isn't going to give me everything that you're doing. In fact, we have parents write into Bark and say, hey, I got a Bark alert about bullying. Can you show me more? And we're like, no. If you would like to know more, you should go talk to your kid or go grab their phone and look through it. Our job isn't to give you everything, it's to let you know that there's a problem so that you can talk to your kid and build that relationship. So we educate the kids about what Bark actually is and what Bark does. I don't think any child will argue that a parent shouldn't know if they're struggling with, mental health or predators or bullying. But it's not always an easy conversation. And actually, April 1, I think, don't tell anybody, but we are partnering with Talkspace Teen. I think it's Talkspace Teen, but essentially we're going to have Talkspace essentially built into our ecosystem so kids can get help right away if they need it. So it's things like that where we're trying to build the ecosystem of let's learn, let's educate, let's use tech for good, but we're not about controlling everything. Is that helpful? It's a longer conversation, but and even then, my son will be like, I don't want you seeing all my texts. I'm like, oh my gosh, for the 17th time, I can't see all of your texts through Bark unless I go to your phone and look through all of them. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. So, yes.
So this is a question about Bark as well. I think you mentioned that you have it in your house. For example, my daughter, birthday is coming up and she's going to have a sleepover for the first time and she invited some friends. I know a couple of them have a cell phone, my daughter doesn't have one. So I told my daughter, listen, your friends are coming, I don't want the cell phones when you guys are going to sleep or it's late on the night.
Yep.
Oh mom, but what happened if they want to text their mom? But I said, yeah, I don't know what parent controls they have on the cell phone, so I don't know what to do. If I install Bark system in my house, can I limit the access to adult content on the other girl's cell phone?
Yes, you should be able to do that. So a few things. One is, whenever your kids have friends over for play dates and they bring tech, that tech should go in a basket, in the kitchen. That shouldn't go around the house with them. So if they do need to call their mom, go for it. Go to the basket, stay at the basket, call your mom at the basket, and then put the device back in the basket. So maybe when it gets to be bedtime, you take that basket into your bedroom with you so they can't wake up in the middle of the night and go get their devices. But on top of that, if you have the Bark Home, it will detect any connected tech that is in your home. And you'll see a bunch of new tech, and you'll add that to the Bark Home system, and you'll set the filters and time limits so you can be extra sure, and that's how that works.
So they have to connect to my Wi-Fi in order for me to have that access. But
Yes.
thankfully in Madison, most people don't have a good internet in the house, so they're gonna be forced to be your Wi-Fi, so I guess.
Can I ask you, next time that kid comes over, does it automatically sync up to your Bark?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to re-add it every time.
With that feature, is there anything that you suggest in terms of informing the parent of that child as well, as opposed to just doing it? Is there any, I think it's a great tool, I'd be all over it. I thank God my kids are older enough that.
Yeah, I would let the parents of the kids know, hey, in our house, this is how we treat tech. The tech goes in the basket. If at any time you're trying to reach your kid and they're out playing outside like kids should be and not tethered to their phone, you call me, you text me, I will go get them and make sure you can get in touch with them. But yeah, you can let them know that they're not gonna have their device on them all the time. Yes?
A couple more questions, can't deny it. I read a lot of Yuval Harari, so that's Author of Sapiens. I've used Nexus, which is data systems from Stone Age to now, computers basically of knowledge. And his position, which I thought was very compelling and is followed by a good following, is that to prepare kids for the future of this continuing course and how AI is going to be able to manipulate them, as you say, to raise the awareness that they're being taken as a sucker, is actually, the key is actually human. In social intelligence, emotional intelligence, to gain a awareness of self so that they can identify, manage, and properly feel better equipped to contend with it. I'm just curious in your perspective, as that is, instead of learning how to be a good tech system, actually learn how to be a stronger human.
I think
it's
just interpersonal skills. You know, I think our kids all, especially during the pandemic, lost some groundwork there of having face-to-face and how to have hard conversations in person versus over text. You know, instead of blocking somebody, maybe walk up to them and be like, hey, that hurt my feelings. Maybe don't do that again.
Right.
So I think we're working on that.
Yeah, and I will say, the school where I was before, I've worked in a variety of schools, and before I came here, I was in a school that did have cell phones. And so I had the experience of that for a good decade. And wow. Coming from the interactions where everything was done via text or via group chat or nothing was done in person. And the drama that ensued because of that, right? That it was just passive aggressive interactions that, or in getting everybody else involved and the lack of socialization that happened because of that. And then I came here, and cell phones are not allowed on campus. And when I tell you, it was a breath of fresh air to have kids that will, I mean, my day as a counselor is a total 180 because kids will interact face to face. And yes, it still takes teaching of social skills and how to, when you have a problem with someone, how do we mediate and how do we talk to each other? Yes, but it is a reteaching of that, but it can be done. And when you take the cell phones away in schools, it is a shock to the system. It really is. But it needs to be done. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but it is a much healthier interaction. And if we can get back to that, I think our students are going to be healthier, and we're going to see a different socialization of students. And I think we're going to also see different interaction with parents and children as well. I think you're going to see you getting your children back in a different way.
Yeah, they know how their feelings work, and they know
Right.
how their brain is receiving, and some caveman brain interference.
Well, and just the ability to voice and voice their frustration. We're going to see a lot more interpersonal, but also just the self-reflection because they're holding a lot in when they're not being able to express themselves in the same way. They're holding it in, or they're texting, and you have your keyboard. We call them, the keyboard warriors. They're getting behind the screens and they're texting things, but they're not actually ever saying things out loud. And so you have a generation that's just not able to express themselves in the same way. And what does that look like as they become adults, right? And what kind of healthy relationships are they going into as they start dating? And you can see how this then becomes as they're becoming adults. It looks a lot different. So. I definitely think that, yes, don't take them fully away, but I think if we can get back to a healthy balance and teach them the skills to socially interact, that's it. When they have cell phones in schools, it is definitely a different experience. Yeah.
You had a question?
I was just going to say, how did you guys get that here? Because there are many of us in this group trying to get to the places with this incredible internet safety and no phones. I was just wondering, and even from your perspective, what can we do to make a stronger voice and
join these guys.
I know I'm with them.
Fellas,
a lot of us are
persons.
with them, but I'm just saying,
just keep making noise.
Is there a way to connect maybe you guys with our schools?
For sure.
Or is there
Yeah,
some stats that you have that are just blaring that we could send our school system? Because
Yeah. So being
yeah.
private, there's more flexibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's I'm not gonna lie, that was huge. So when we looked at the top 5 websites, it was I don't know, Google Drive.
You're talking about, so our system of Go Guardian.
Yeah, Go
So
Guardian.
what will we look at? And the two of us are very driven by this. Our school's mission has always been play-based, getting into, so we've always been cell phone free, so that's also how the school's always been. Getting outside on this beautiful campus that we have, it's just been the mission of the school. But when we are also into the data of this, so when I came on and Joe had been here coming from another school, we have always looked at this, the data of Go Guardian can show us what top sites the students are getting on our school computers. And when we saw YouTube was number one over the school, Google Classroom and what academically the students should be on, okay, that's a problem, right? Because YouTube should not be the number one because they're not on YouTube researching something academic. They're on YouTube Shorts. We know what they're doing. They're just on a loop of nothing academic. So when we see that, okay, we need to make a change, and that's when we had the conversation.
And that becomes a 20-minute meeting here where you show that to the head of the school, and he's like, "Can you block that?" and stop.
Right.
At the Board of Ed, I know it's more of a journey, but you keep going. Like don't stop.
So I don't know how many of you know Nikki Reisberg, the Scrolling to Death podcast, amazing woman. Her website, scrollingthe2death.com/resources, has a lot of this because she just went through this. She was livid to find out her third grader was able to access suicide promoting content on YouTube through the school issue device, and she said, no, we're not doing this anymore. So, what to ask my school about device safety? I'm worried about my child's screen time at school. She has templates for you to send to the people that need to make the decisions. You want to opt out of devices at school. You want to request a phone-free school. You want to request YouTube be blocked on student devices. Scrolling number2death.com/resources. She's amazing. She already did the work for us. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up. So I have a 6th grader and I have a 9th grader. And when I was at orientation for my daughter's 9th grade year this year, I know that the principal at the high school said that he didn't think that the measures that they have for cell phones and tech were enough. Those were his words. Like that they had made efforts this year to limit the cell phones, but that he did not think it was enough. And I'm just wondering, I just feel like, and I know I'm guilty of it too, I haven't sent an email to him saying that I support more, an effort to limit cell phones. And I'm just wondering if there's some way, as the group that you've created, that we have, just an email that all we have to do is copy and paste, and every single person who feels this way sends it to, even if you have a 3rd grader, send it to all of the administrators in every single school, so that they know that there's a huge population of parents who are for this. I know that these administrators are for it. I've heard it from their mouths. So I think it's just a matter of being noisy.
Actually, we have a letter up front at the desk that we are going to be sending to Madison superintendent, and there's another one for Guilford the superintendent, because there were a lot of Guilford people that were coming here tonight. So if you want to look at that, if you want to sign it, I was just going to mail them in every day, send him one, just so he knows that we want this, but I can also post that on our Facebook page. The best way right now that we're communicating with people is our Facebook page and email. And I know it sucks because it's social media, but it is what it is.
No, I know.
That's the right way to use it, though.
So if you just get on our Madison Youth Unplugged people, we can put letters up there and you guys can send them in. You can email them, hard copy mail them. We have all of this. We have been working on with all of this stuff for like a year. We have found so much information. There's so many templates out there. Like she's just showing. Like there's so much. The work's been done. People have figured this out. People have written everything down. There's letters to superintendents and principals and school board. Like they've all done it. We just have to take 2 minutes and send it. And I think that's how we're going to get heard. I mean, we got to get loud.
And I would just say, as a student support person, data speaks loud, and one way that you can always speak to administration is through data. So speak with your student support and speak with your administration. Things that go down when you take cell phones out of school: absence is reduced, absences go down, grades go up, okay? Bullying goes down. Obviously, we know that those numbers go down. My time spent as a counselor in a school where there were cell phones, I would say almost, because I clock, I follow everything that I do during my day, and your counselors, your social workers, whatever you have in your schools should be tracking what they do during their day. That is what we do. So they should have data on this, hopefully, fingers crossed, that you can be asking about. That should be data that they can share with you. What percentage of their day is spent following the drama that ensues because of cell phones? And I put this out there because I worked in public schools, I worked in private schools, and my day, I was in an article, 90% of my day sometimes was investigating things that happened because of cell phones. Someone got a text during a math class and boom, the floor fell out beneath them because a picture was taken in a bathroom. Boom. And then, so what are your counselors, what is your administration doing to follow all these things that are happening because cell phones are in schools?
It just
It's
makes
easy.
sense.
It takes up, and your administrators, your student support team, I guarantee there's so much more that we could be doing with our day to support students in the academic success that we really want to be doing as educators.
Yeah, besides
right?
being social media.
Social media, and I did not go to work or go to school or do my education to become an investigator of social media or cell phones. I promise you that it is not.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like I needed to go to police school to become a detective in some way, but right, it's just not what we want to be doing with our time. We have so many other things. I want to look at the mental health of students for the mental health of supporting them, not because of social media stuff. So the data is there. It's just asking the right questions, but it is there. It should be there. And I'm saying it should be there because it should be there. So ask the right questions if that helps in any way. And I've said this to Madison Youth Unplugged. I am happy to help be a resource if you need me in at all.
Let's have one more question, and then I think we probably all want to get home.
So I guess we just talked about how ban phones at school. I think nobody here will disagree with banning phones at like middle school level, but at some point at high school, I would imagine that you would want to get to the point where they're comfortable with it in their phones. Like right now, you may have looked at your phone once or twice during this, no big deal. How do we get kids to get to that point? Because after high school, either they're going to go straight into the workforce or they're going to go into college, and nobody's going to police it or care. So, I guess.
What's the transition?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's called high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you transition. Right?
Yeah, and if you can wait until 10th grade, like 9th graders don't need smartphones in high school, bad things are happening. But I'd say collectively, guidance counselors and therapists say like around 10th grade, kids start to grow up a little bit, they get a little nicer, they get a little kinder, the bullying reduces. So I think much like Jonathan's data says, like wait till 16. When kids start driving, yeah, they need to be able to call in case of emergency. They also don't need to be texting while driving. So it's like, there's a balance, there's some semblance of balance, but we are so far on the bad side, we've got to kind of swing that pendulum back. So we can wait till 16, great, let's at least aim for that.
Sure.
Yeah. Great.
Let's give Titania Jordan a big round of applause. That if you buy a book, you might stick around for a signing.
Yes.
Right? So please enjoy some drinks and snacks on the way out. Say hi to Titania with her book, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.